Hey there, Capricorn. How are you doing? So this is an ascendant forecast for you, taking you through the next 2 weeks from the full moon in Aquarius on the 9th of August, right the way through to the new moon in Virgo on the 23rd of August. Now, if you're new to this channel, these forecasts, these ascendant forecasts, are designed with a whole sign Western tropical perspective. So if you're somebody who loves whole sign, this is going to suit you down to the ground. But if you're somebody like me who looks at their chart in Placidus, you might notice that in your first house, you've got both Capricorn and Aquarius. So what I recommend that you might do is that you listen to this and also check out Aquarius too. I think between the two of them, you'll get a beautiful blend that will really make sense. So ordinarily, I look at the full astrology scoop every time I do these, and I talk a lot about the waning moon phase, the moon phase we're in, and all of the different planetary aspects. I'm not going to do that so much because in this particular one, what I'd really like to examine are the 3 key stages that I see coming up. And they are as follows. Let me just find my slides. I really think there's this period of the reveal. I think that this full moon is about revelations. It's a place where our mask drops and we see the mess. So we understand the mess of consciousness that might have led us where we have got to. And then in the post full moon period, I really think we've got a pressure to purify. This is a time of refinement. This is a time for us to stick to that course that is going to take us where we want to go. I find, sorry, if I stand out of breath, it's because I've just been doing some exercises in between forecasts to try and keep my energy high. So then the last part is the rebirth, which is the new moon, this new moon phase that we're coming to. And I really see this as a sacred act. You know, the new moon's in Virgo, and this is a really special one because it's part of a 2-part new moon Virgo series. So we've got the new moon, this one, on the 23rd of August. It's at 0 degrees in the sign of Virgo. And we've got another one right at the end of Virgo, a month later, and it's an eclipse. So there's a lot going on with this. But what I really want to do in this forecast is examine these 3 questions. And here they are. So where is my mask? That's about the full moon. Where has my mask been for survival? And what would I prefer to express in my life? Then what truth about myself or my life has become impossible to ignore, and what would shift it? And then finally, what small sacred act of cleansing and reordering could help me restore faith in myself? So it's really taken us, these 3 questions are taking us through this revelation, refinement and rebirth phase. And I really think of it like this, you know, how can we honor the mess whilst not giving up the sacred? So what I'm going to do is bring up 2 particular charts, the full moon chart and the new moon chart from a Capricorn perspective. But before I do that, I just want to thank everybody who has supported this channel, who continues to support this channel, or also my members, the people who have joined my Feel Good Astrology membership. Thank you so much because you really keep this show on the road. So thank you. So we've got our questions. Now we've got the charts. So we've got the new moon in Aquarius chart here, and it is, you can see the new moon is in the 2nd house. There's also another opposition taking place on that day, and that's Pluto in an opposition to Mercury retrograde. Now I just want to let's say a small thing about Mercury retrograde. He's going direct on the 11th, and things are going to get a lot easier. They're going to straighten out quite quickly from the 11th. But if you're interested in knowing what Mercury going direct on the 11th is likely to have in your life, in particular in unraveling this particular opposition, I've got a 3 or 4 minute forecast for you. It's a really micro forecast and it follows this video. So stay tuned for that if that's of interest. We've also got this opposition, or it's 2 oppositions. We've got Mars in opposition to Saturn and also Mars in opposition to Neptune. They're both exact on this day. I think this is going to be a very, very sparky day, you know, with lots of things possibly blowing up, lots of big situations coming up, lots of masks falling. I mean, you might have already watched my full moon in Aquarius forecast, which I released, I think about 5 days ago. That gives a lot more information, but it's a big, big energy. And you'll see here that we've got these full moon, the full moon and the Mercury oppositions going on in your 2nd and 8th house, and then the Mars and Saturn and Neptune opposition going on in your 4th and 10th houses. These are all very important houses to have oppositions in, especially at the time of the full moon. So we've got the 2nd house, which is about your feelings of value, your feelings of self-worth, and also the money that you're earning, and possibly some of the difficulty in understanding that and communicating about your self-worth to the partners in your life. Maybe you feel like people are misjudging you or putting things on you. This 8th house is about other people's values and how other people see your value, and also the money that exists between you. So to me, there is this very big, deep questioning and curiosity going on about your self-worth and value at this time. I do think the full moon is going to bring it up. And also how it translates into your home life and also your career. With Mars coming into the 10th house, which he did just a couple of days ago, Mars is here to energize your career suddenly. And it feels like it's go, go, go. You don't want to be held back. That Mars energy just wants to move forwards. And why not? I mean, Mars is beautifully aligned to Uranus in the 6th house and also beautifully aligned to Pluto in the 2nd. These are, your money, your work, and your 10th house. So to me, Mars at the top is really saying, come on, Capricorn, it's time to go. There's no time to sit down. It's time to get moving. And yet Saturn and Neptune in the 4th, right at the bottom of this chart, are saying otherwise. They're saying, actually, I want to stay here. You can be much more successful at home. There's a much deeper marker of what success is. And how can you bring the soul back into your world? And so to me, it feels like anywhere where you're fighting to be out in the open and out in your career, there's a feeling that you're not being your soulful self. It's quite a conflict to find yourself in, especially seeing as other people in your life might be judging you about your money and about your value system, and also because you're also judging yourself. So this really sets the scene for some very deep inquiry. And this actually makes an envelope. If you look at this and turn it round, you'll see like an envelope or an envelope where you put a letter in and you close it and you stick a stamp on it and you send it somewhere, sending a letter. So it looks like a letter, you could say. And the point of the letter is in the sign of in the sign of Gemini, and it's represented by Uranus. Uranus is a real sort of change factor in this. Uranus is really leading all these planets. Uranus is making a connection to all of these planets, and in fact, he's making strong connections with all of these. These are all sort of helpful ones there, sextiles and trines. Uranus is in a very fast-paced, shifting consciousness position right now. And so whatever you're considering in terms of home and away, the changes that are going on in your day-to-day living are going to be quite fast. And I think how you choose to put where you choose to put your attention is going to determine what big shifts are coming in. To me, it feels like you're really ready to do things very differently, to kind of cut away from the past and to really embrace a new system, a new way of doing things. And so it might be, that you're like reformatting your life in quite a strong way, maybe using a lot of technology. But Uranus here is not wanting to be ignored. He's about to shake your life up in quite a helpful way. So these are really big epic times. And then when I put in the new moon position, the new moon is up here in the 9th house. It's coming in on the 23rd of August, and you can see that it's got a yod. This is also known as a finger of God or a finger of fate. And wherever it points is showing where your best, where things can resolve. And so to me, in your life right now, the new moon is showing something that's due to resolve, due to increase, due to get better. there's a really big influence, like a really big energy to embrace in the ninth house of your chart. And the ninth house is a place of freedom, of bigger thoughts, higher thoughts, learning. It's a place of experimentation. It's a place of being anywhere but here. And so maybe this is where some of the tension of the full moon's opposition to Mars, with all this energy at home, maybe home feels quite strong and stable, and possibly a little bit too rigid. And yet there's this impulse to explore something far, far away in a whole new way of seeing things. So to me, it just feels like the way you're managing your money, represented by Pluto, and also the way you're managing your home, represented by Saturn and Neptune, they're really like those two highly pressured points are pointing you in the direction of freedom, because possibly, and I would say this, Pluto and Saturn are the two bossiest or controlling or powerful and slightly negative planets. So you might feel the need to earn money is, it's icky. There's something that doesn't feel quite right. And the need to keep everything as it needs to be, by Saturn in the fourth, just doesn't feel right. And so this new moon is screaming out for some relief, screaming out for some freedom. And so I think that's where you're heading, Capricorn, at the end of this, in this 2-week forecast. This is asking how you can go from the money worries and the money concerns, and also the concern about, like being free to be yourself in your career and being able to take action, even though the home is kind of holding you back a little bit. And yeah, it's really pointing you in this direction of freedom, expression, adventure, a greater context. And yeah, I think this is quite exciting. Now, obviously, there's going to be another one coming up at the end of September, another new moon, an eclipse, and it's so close to this crucial point at the top. It's really right on the cusp between the 9th and the 10th house, the big adventure into the career. And so to me, it feels like whatever you're doing in this next month in terms of expanding your vision and resting in everything that's different and kind of diving into everything that's diverse and really sort of enjoying the expansion. It can be a spiritual expansion, a philosophical, political, legal expansion. To me, it's bringing up a whole new way of being. And I think those seeds are being sown so that as you go into the 10th house, which will happen because the sun will come round to this time of Libra at the end of September, around the 24th, I think, at the autumn equinox. Then all of a sudden, what's happened in the last month has lined you up for something really quite moving and motivating, and it's really going to shift your career on. So I think you're going into a bit of a preparation stage to broaden yourself, relax a little bit, inspire yourself, so that from the end of September, it's back to business with a real kick. It really feels like you've got some very strong presence and power. There's a few things that I'd like to mention to you that I think will be helpful to know about. And then I'm going to go and answer those questions for you. So the first thing I'd like to point out to you is I really like this time around the 10th to the 12th. I mean, not only is Mercury going direct again, but Saturn in a sextile to Uranus, I think is like that exact one. And you'll see it here. It's really going from the 6th to the 4th. It really is time for you to realize a new way of being at home and in your life. So I do think there's a strong new message kind of pushing you in a different direction, and trying to find grounding in and support and foundations in a whole new way. And I think technology is going to really help in that. But I really love that exact sextile. It's helpful. It's creating, I think, a sense of trust in yourself, in particular about money, because both Saturn and Uranus rule money. So that's very, very helpful. But also got Venus in a conjunction with Jupiter, and they're happening in the 7th house. This is really lovely. Like you can see it This is on the 12th. This is on the day of the full moon. By the 12th, they're exactly in the same space. In the 7th house, to me, this is an indication that when you're following your route and you know it's your route, there's a lot of support out there for you. There's loads of support out there for you that can really help you feel a great sense of belonging. They're both really beautifully lined up to the North Node in the 3rd house. So to me, I really feel there's a lovely opportunity to connect at a very deep level. In fact, that could be a really good day to meet up with somebody, maybe an old peer, someone from school, maybe your cousin, your siblings, or people that are part of your community in a really powerful way. There's some really important meetings, I think, meetings of minds, but there's a real sort of generosity that's coming up in your emotional life around that time. I think that's helpful. The next important thing I want to show you is the sun in a trine to Chiron. So on the 19th, the sun will have moved from here to here. And it's going to be in a trine to Chiron. And so this is a trine going on from the 4th house to the 8th house. And to me, this is showing that any of these old wounds from childhood, the ones that have maybe that you've created. Oh, this is it. This is the mask that I'm talking about. An old masking situation where you felt like you've had to be a certain way to avoid the pain, avoid a re-triggering. To me, on the 19th, there's this lovely opportunity to free yourself from it, where you redefine how much other people's opinions of you are important. So in any kind of intimate relationship, and also in your family, family will judge you based on what they think you should be doing, as opposed to what they want you to, like how you want to be. They'll probably have a judgment about that. And some people just say, it doesn't matter. They can have their thoughts. I'm absolutely fine being myself. And yet most people actually carry that sort of pressure of, I'm really not matching up to what my parents wanted, or I'm not good enough for the school, or I'm not good enough for this, I'm not good enough for that. So I really think the level of not good enough that you have been carrying and reveling in and probably getting lost in, there's a peace, there's a pause, there's a moment to reflect and move beyond that. I really think the sun in a trine to Chiron is a good day. Like if you've got, if you needed to meet a coach or have a interactive session with somebody, that would be the day I'd go for it. Because to me, it's a time when you call time on things. You're able to draw a line under something and say, that's done, that's completed. And, if something similar comes up in the future, sure, it might get re-triggered, but you're going to be working with it in a completely different way. And this is going from the home to the ancestral home, or from the family to the old family patterns. So this is really significant, I think. And then, the sun will go into the sign of Virgo. And soon after, the moon will go into the sign of Virgo. We've got a Venus square Chiron on that day as well, which is also a very sort of strong energy. Venus is in the 7th. You might have got very comfortable with your deservability, but you might then get a sense that like how do I get valued by the people in my life? Do people value me enough? Like Venus in the 7th really has a lot to do with the potential love that you can feel, and the soreness that maybe you're not good enough for love. That's a whole different thing. But at the time of this new moon, you've got the sun and the moon at 0 degrees in the sign of Virgo, and it's really starting you on this. Do you know what? I don't want to live with high expectations anymore. I don't want to live with pressures. I don't want to live with this. I'm not good enough, or am I good enough? I just want the freedom of it. And so this new moon is creating this sense of freedom. And how can I commit to my freedom? So I'm going to just answer those questions. So where has my mask been for survival, and what would I prefer to express? I really think this mask of not good enough, Chiron and the sun is really playing out during this time. But this is playing out in a time where you can release that. I also think around the time of the full moon, there's this very strong mask of I need to do it all. I really need to have control over my money. I need to be good at this. I need to be powerful. Because if I don't, I'm going to have to work with other people that I don't trust and that maybe don't think I'm strong enough. So I really see this whole family drama playing out. What you probably want to express and feel is that you're not part of this drama at all, that you're actually in this place of emotional freedom, freedom of the drama. What truth about myself has become impossible to ignore. I think like Capricorns are really known for being like stable and reliable and humorous. They're very funny. Capricorns, the Capricorn energy is one of success usually. And it's also one of patience, like steady patience. But actually what I'm seeing here with Saturn and Neptune right at the bottom of the chart, I'm actually seeing like on the one hand a rigidity or a feeling of pressure coming from the home, and then this like burst for freedom. I don't really feel like this is, this new moon is really showing a need for freedom, a need for release, a need for relief as well. Release and relief, you could say. And that's not really a Capricorn thing. Capricorns are able to carry a lot on their shoulders, and they're able to get by even when there's not much gratitude and not much appreciation. Capricorns are really quite sturdy and they're really a marvel. They're really, really quite cool. And so I think Saturn down here at the home is just too much. It feels like there's too many expectations. And so I think what truth about myself has become impossible to ignore. That is that you're also a human that has a human need to express and to adventure and not to sit still, not to be too calcified at home. You might find that you've created this beautiful home and now you're feeling dissatisfied and need to get out of it. And I imagine that could be really, really hard, that the energy that you've put into working hard and having things turn up and show up for you, that must be quite hard, that what you've worked for, you no longer want. I'm sure you do want it, but there is a price. To me, it feels like there's a heaviness at home. It's heavy, and you're really wanting the lightness of the yod pointing in the ninth house direction. So what small sacred act of cleansing and reordering could help you restore your faith in yourself? I really think following the impulse of the new moon is important. I also think following the impulse of the beautiful Jupiter and Venus conjunction on the 12th. So, one sacred act you could do is, how can I relate to others, possibly people you're responsible for? How can I relate to others in a way to do with the heart and not to do with the responsibility? How can I relate to my family from a place of open-ended joy rather than commitment and restriction? To me, it feels like anything that is forced upon you and it doesn't feel like there's a choice in it. It feels like it's getting ready to erupt. And so to me, the Venus and Jupiter conjunction is about you feeling the naturalness of love and feeling the naturalness. I wonder what you could do, like if you've got a partner, if you can go for a picnic or something that doesn't involve lots of constructs, doesn't involve lots of money to enact. It doesn't involve a big drive. It doesn't involve a big fanfare. I wonder what you could do, like, how songs are released and then there's an unplugged version. I wonder how you could unplug a date. I wonder how you could be really natural with somebody and just feel the pleasure of it and come into yourself. I did recommend to somebody else to go to another sign to go into the simplicity of the moment. But for me, I see you being simple with your partner. That's one way to connect back into the sacredness. But the other, I think, is to find a way to move beyond the situation you find yourself in. And of course, if you've already got commitments and stuff, that's going to be very difficult to do. And I think it is something that's going to require some patience to be able to unpick. I do think it's worth exploring anywhere where you feel like you've been close to exploding, because you are responsible and reliable, and Saturn in opposition to Mars in such a prominent place could be very, very painful, and it could bring up this feeling of, I've got to change right now. I'm out of here. And I don't think that's going to help you. I think you will regret that. So how can you let off that steam without damaging your whole life? How do you do that without completely throwing your life into the flames? I recommend... I don't know what I'm recommending, but I do, I don't have the answer. Obviously, these are your answers to find, and far be it from me to tell a Capricorn what they need to do. But this new moon in Capricorn, this is the safer one. This is the one where you can off gas, you can let off some of the steam, you can let off some of the pressure. But if you wait around to the next new moon, which is also an eclipse and in opposition to Saturn and Neptune, and if you haven't resolved it, I think anywhere where it feels heavy, you may just shut the door and walk. So I really do recommend that you do something around the 9th to release the pressure. And beyond the 9th, really before the 23rd, start releasing the pressure gradually in small bursts, so that you don't burn your dreams, but that you do start to bring in the freedom for yourself. So I'm going to leave that there. I hope that was helpful for you. I mean, I do try and read these forecasts as if I was speaking to you directly, like looking at your own chart in a consultation. And if you find this useful, if you like the way these forecasts speak to you, then come join my membership. You'll find loads of forecasts Monday to Friday. Then every 2 weeks there's love forecasts and money forecasts, and there's a community of people. Or if you want me to explore your chart in person, then literally just head to the links in the description box below and book a private session. So thank you so much for joining me today. Stick around for the Mercury, the Mercury forecast that's coming straight up, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Lots of love. Bye for now.